What's up, guys? So there's no doubt in anybody's mind that having a good bench vise is an absolute necessity on a homestead or in any shop whatsoever. However, the one I've got is total dog crap. It's an embarrassment, so let's go through and try to fix that today. Come with me, let's dig through the scrap pile and see if we can do a little bit better on this. So as you can see, this is truly a scrap metal build. This is just an old tire and wheel that I kind of threw together. I needed this thing to be somewhat mobile so I could kind of move it around the property as I needed. And as far as a solid immovable object and bench vise, I've got another one that's a project for a later date. So I figured I'd use this old tire and wheel, hoping that the tire kind of stabilized it a little bit on my concrete and uneven ground. This is just old pieces of channel iron. You can see it's scabby, painty, and rusty, and had a piece of plate, 3/8 plate, and some just 2-inch, oil field pipe. And you can see how janky this old setup I had was. It's extremely lightweight, but too lightweight to do any, real work. It's more of just like a third hand setup, and trying to do any, prying or anything like that. It's just, this setup's just a little bit too lightweight. So I was wanting something a little bit more sturdy. Another thing is, my shop is not set up. There's a lot of stuff I need, especially on the fabrication end. And I've reached out to a whole bunch of different companies, seeing if they'd be willing to kind of collaborate with me to do some evaluations on some good budget items. There's some things I need. I want to try a few different welders. I want to try a few different plasma cutters. I need a drill press. There's just a lot of stuff I need, and over the next probably 6 months to a year, we're going to be doing a lot of that. We're going to be setting up the shop, getting it ready, and me, kind of like everybody else, my shop is double duty. Everything has to be mobile because that's where my wife's car goes, and I don't think she'll take too nicely to me wanting to kick her car outside just so I can have a place to play and work on stuff. And this gives me a good chance to practice on welding because I kind of suck at it. This was way more work than it should have been. This 3/8 plate is just way too much to cut with my 20 amp 110 volt circuit. So I didn't film it because it was just too much, man. It took me about an hour, maybe a little over an hour, to cut that a little bit at a time, having to give my breaker plenty of rest. Anyway, let's take this outside and grind it. Probably won't film that, but grind this smooth and we'll get finished up. Okay, so I got that thing ground mostly smooth. You see me here just sort of tracing it out. And this old vise is the one that I got at an estate sale for like $5 for a wilted vise. That's pretty amazing. Keep your eye open. You can start to find good deals whenever you're careful. Just drilled these out. I don't have a drill press, and I really need one. I desperately need a drill press because hand drilling this was not fun. To enlarge these holes, I just used a step drill bit because this hand drill just won't turn a hole that big in 3/8 plate. And you can see I had some trouble with it. Had to kind of go from both sides. You can see here, man, it just took everything, even for the step drill. There's no way it would have turned just a standard twist drill through that 3/8 plate. But we did get the holes punched through it. It came out all right. Didn't take too long. Got the job done either way. You can see through here, I started out here in the beginning running flux core, and it was working for me pretty good until I ran out of wire. So you'll see here in a minute whenever I lay it on over to weld the top on, because there ain't no way I'm going to attempt welding that overhead and expecting it to stick. Right here I'm just trying to get it leveled up. I don't care that it's perfect, but I want it to be not totally terrible off. Doing my best to grind off those high spots. Like I said, I don't need it to be perfect, and that's one good thing about welding, is you can kind of work your tacks in such a way that it kind of makes up for some uneven fit. Although it's not a perfect world, you know, for us messing around in the garage, it's something we can do.
I think that's probably good enough. The rest of that I can kind of fix with my tack welds.
I'm just trying to grind off some of this old scabby looking rust that was on this thing, so maybe I can get the welds to stick on both the top plate and the post. Yeah, and right about here is where I finally ran out of wire on this flux core, so I had to switch over to stick. You'll see me do that here in a minute. I've got a whole lot more experience running stick than I do flux core, and I feel like I can actually run a better quality weld with stick anyway, but that's something I need to practice on, and we'll get there eventually, right? Okay, so finally got it put together. Kind of get it mounted up here. You'll see here in a second. I left it a little long on one side because I wanted a place to set a hammer or a bottle of oil or whatever tool I was working with. I just wanted a place to lay that down so I could keep it handy. That may work out to get in the way. I don't know. We'll see when the time comes. But I'm glad to put this vise back into service, man. It's been sitting, not used for years. These electric ratchets, man, if you don't have one, you definitely need to look at seeing about picking one up. For running bolts down and running nuts down, man, they work perfect. This thing had set just long enough that it needed a squirt of oil to be able to run real smooth, so this is just some silicone based lubricant that I've got. Squirted it on there. I try to keep away from the WD-40 on stuff like this. It just gums up, but I've had pretty good luck with this stuff. And just for fun, you got to clamp something in it when you finish a project and use it. Even if it's just wasting material, you got to use it somehow, don't you? Well, friends, here it is, the finished product. It does exactly what I want. It's not as stable as, a big heavy-duty vise, but I needed this to be mobile. And if I need a little bit more stability, I've got a whole bunch of chain I can throw on the bottom of that. I did add a little hammer loop here to store a hammer, but I don't think that's going to work out exactly how I planned. But here it is. There was $0 spent on this, other than just a few welding rods. And even though my welding skills need some work, you'll never get any better if you don't get out and practice. So that's a good portion of what this job actually was just getting some practice with the welding. It's been so long since I've done it, and I never was great to begin with. But anyway, there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff come up with shop-related things in the near future. I've actually reached out to several different companies trying to see if I can get some products in here to evaluate and see if we can find some good budget options that aren't total junk. I need to add a drill press. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that I need to add. We're going to be buying some stuff from Harbor Freight. We need a better welding table. I've got one of those coming in the mail. I paid for it. But y'all stay tuned, because we're going to be doing a whole lot more of this stuff in the near future.